What is going on, football fans, Miami Hurricane fans, all you trolls? That means Ben out there in the chat. That was disappointing, but almost expected at this point. There's only so many times we can sit there and do that and win. Slim, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I'm not taking any lip out of the Socks with Crocs crowd. Um, second of all, you're right. We've said it week after week. How long can you keep playing with fire before you get burned? And they got burned.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, Georgia Tech, they came out with a good game plan. They ran that clock down on us, ran that clock, keep the offense off the field. That's what they did. And that's exactly what they needed to do. Kudos to their quarterback running for, I don't know, how many yards did that guy run for tonight?
I don't think Haynes King had a terribly high number of rushing yards. He was still well under 100, but it we were talking about this backstage. It seemed like almost a carbon copy of that 2020 North Carolina game when the edges kept just going to the inside and not setting their edge, and guys breaking to the outside every time.
Yeah, it's like everything Diesel says, can't stop that jet sweep and RPO. They just keep running it to the outside, just kept doing it over and over again. And we can only go so long with these comeback wins. You can't keep doing it. We're bound to get burned, and we got burned today in Atlanta at the dump called Bobby Dodd. I'm glad I was going to go to that game. I'm really glad I didn't now.
Well, and a lot of people too. I keep seeing, blame being thrown around, and there's definitely plenty to go around. But my thing with it is, you put what's on the coaches, and what's on the players. And if the players keep fighting on the same thing over and over again, the coaches have emphasized that. That's on guys just not doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, they just keep getting burned. It's almost like the same play every week. We just get burned on that exact same play.
A lot of it is that quarterback rollout, and then dumping off to that to usually a running back, sometimes a slot receiver in the flat, and
right.
they just keep it. Once again, if you're getting bit on the same play over and over, that's on players, not coaches. I mean, right. It is what it is, because none of us are in the rooms, but when that same play keeps coming up, the coaches are bringing it up. I mean, I guarantee you, Lance Guidry is banging his head against the wall from talking about that same play against everybody, and the guys keep getting bit on it. That's on them.
Right. What's up, LW? He says, I know how it is losing to smart kids. Cheers. So you say that Rec Talk was out there on the field dancing around. Did he tear down the goalpost?
No, they actually laid down the goalpost to keep anybody from tearing it down. I guess they don't have the money for another one or something. I don't know.
Or is Bobby Dodd? Maybe it just fell over. I mean, it could have just collapsed on its own.
Yeah, that was kind of sad. But I agree with you too. Like their game plan was to keep the ball on the ground, much like Florida State, and try to keep the ball out of Cam Ward's hands and just eat up clock.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they did, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they got ahead, they just had the time of possession and out coached us, outplayed us on that, I guess. But it sucks. But none of us, like we were saying before, none of us picked us except for T2Y picked us to have an undefeated season. So I'm still not, I'm not jumping off a cliff or anything like that. It sucks. But a one loss if we can go the rest of the season. And what do we have? What do we got? Wake Forest and Syracuse?
Wake Forest and Syracuse. And, to your point, okay, I mean, everybody was getting caught up with playoffs and national titles. And listen, we said it, at least some of us on here have said it every week, that, you have to worry about the game in front of you. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this is what I was complaining about last week. Like, and somebody brought it up earlier, and I said it a few times. I know in a group text. I've got to question some of the play calling. That's something I've got to put on the coaches. Like, what is Shannon Dawson doing? Not running the ball on 4th and a yard or less than it might have even been a little less than a yard. But why are you throwing the ball to the halfback out of the backfield on 4th and 1? What are you doing?
Yeah, that was even and like you said, I remember we have a little group chat going or group text going, and when they went for 2, you were like, "Oh, that's the stupidest thing." And I remember Alex, who should be joining us here in a minute, he's I think maybe going through depression stages, but the kicking or not just kicking it, and like he was in there going, that was no, the reason we did it, blah blah. Then it came back and bit us in the ass. Slim's like, "Yep, see, I was right." So hats off to you.
Well, and you have to give credit to Georgia Tech's defense. Now, unfortunately, the camera work is so terrible in these games that we don't get a view of what's happening downfield. But I agree with the point that Cam Ward is holding on to the ball too long sometimes, and needs to get the ball out of his hands. If it's not there, sometimes you just got to let it go. But I have to assume that Georgia Tech's corners were just playing good coverage because we didn't get a look of it, what was really going on down the field. And so what's going on with the wide receivers? Why Georgia Tech should not be able to keep y'all covered like that?
No, not at all. I don't know. They came prepared for us. They came ready to play. I don't think we showed up with our A game. I mean, obviously we just didn't do it. We didn't look. I mean, I say we didn't look like, but I mean, our defense, we looked like our defense has looked the whole season, but our offense wasn't clicking like it has.
Well, no, actually, the defense hasn't looked like that all season. The run defense has been great for the most part all season. I'm sure you give up a couple plays here that you're not going to shut down everything, but on the whole, the run defense has been fine all year. Where were they? That today was literally the most rush yards they've given up since that 2020 North Carolina game. What are y'all doing?
Right. Yeah, I mean, what's important though is that they get back in the locker room and hold their heads up and not come out next week letting one loss, letting one game beat you twice. So hopefully not.
Well, and I call it, if you remember in the offseason before we got going, I said they may be feeling themselves too much, and that's why I call it a loss to Syracuse at the end of the year. Now, with that same line of thinking, because they have to stew on this for 2 weeks because they have a bye week next week, you really do have to worry about not letting Georgia Tech beat you twice.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I'm glad we're playing Wake Forest next and not Syracuse. Like, I'd much rather have, the lineup we have. I'd rather play Wake Forest next than have to play Syracuse next. But as long as we win out, we're still sitting in a good spot. So I'm not going to get like totally depressed about this. It sucks. It's not, but it's a hell of a lot better than coming on here, almost every game last year and losing. we're not coming on here after losing to Middle Tennessee,
Yeah. And somebody pointed out, and I don't even remember where I saw this, but Georgia Tech was kind of the beginning of the downfall of last season. So, to your point, I hope they don't let that happen again this season.
Yeah,
you got 2 games that you'll definitely be favored in going forward, or at least should be. Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, James Hennessy, thanks for the $2 super chat there. Run defense most worrying for today. It's that, that sweep, that outside thing that they just get us on. And like we were saying last week, it's, we don't have the speed. We got the size up front, so we have a lot of trouble getting out there. So you get one, it takes away from the other. So if we had the speed to get out there, they'd probably just run it down our throats right down the middle every time. So it's you give up one to take another, but yeah, it's quite annoying to watch and frustrating.
Well, and this you saw something else today that, and this is why I say it's another carbon copy of that 2020 North Carolina game, because I just saw guys overrunning the play over and over, and then all you need is a little push because your momentum's already taking you from a Georgia Tech offensive player, and you're out of the play.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that so many times today. Now, was it just me? I know I can't be the only one that noticed this, that an exorbitant amount of injury timeouts today for both sides.
Yeah, there was a lot of people getting hurt out there. Yeah, a lot of time went by with that. So I hope everybody's okay. I hope either team. I hope no, season-ending injuries come out of any of that. But I think we're okay. John Bird, appreciate the support there, brother. Says keep up the good work, guys. Go Canes. Hey, thanks a lot, John. Really do appreciate you, man. Do appreciate you, and thanks for being here even after we lost. Here he comes. Let's hear it.
I ain't dodging no smoke. I imagine there were already accusations that I was ducking out because we lost, but I'm here with my chest out, smiling, even though we fucking suck.
What's up? So they were setting up cameras. Was that to survey you crying in the backyard, or was that for security purposes?
No, it's to defend my property from perverts like you.
So what'd you think of the game, brother?
I was saying this to a couple people. Like, I need this week the defense to keep them under 30, and it's a point that was reiterated on the Orange Bowl boys this week, where it's like, hey, keep them under 30, give them a touchdown per quarter, and like that should be good enough for this offense. We did that, and we still lost, so that's great. But even though, we kept them under 30, we still gave up. Did it reach 300 yards rushing? I know we were damn close.
I don't think so, but I don't have the numbers pulled up right in front of me.
Yeah, I can try to pull it up. Give me a moment. I'll pull it up.
Yeah, I mean, you have Haynes King.
Oh, shit.
He kicked himself.
No, I kicked him by accident. Sorry.
The woke media is trying to silence me. No, I'm joking. But yeah, you got Haynes King out there who already can't throw the ball, and now he's playing on one arm and a freshman quarterback, and they're going to run the ball. Like, that's what they're going to do. Even when Haynes King is healthy, they want to run the ball, and we couldn't stop it. I mean, how many times today did we see a defensive edge just crash on the inside and give up the edge, and they roll out on a perimeter run and pick up 5, 10, 12 yards?
Oh, yeah. I brought that up. And Tyler, that's a lot of that is on Tyler Barron specifically.
And then you pair that with the absolute stupidity, complete coaching negligence of some of these fourth down calls. Shannon Dawson, they were not able to stop you running all day. All day. It's 4th and 1. You got Mark Fletcher, who's 6'2", 230, and Damian Martinez, who's 6'2", 230, 6 foot, 235. And you go with a pass, a play action pass, where you have Cam roll out to the short side of the field. What are you doing? You need a yard. And then there's other times where you give up points. They left 9 points on the field. We lost by 5.
Yeah.
Like, what? It's just.
Well, I think Carl Davis sums it up perfectly, because I said the same thing last week. They're trying to get Cam the Heisman. Shannon Dawson did the same thing at West Virginia with Will Grier. They were campaigning to get that man the Heisman.
Yeah, and that's not the trophy we're going after. You're trying to win an ACC title. You're trying when you're ranked number 4 in the country, say what you will about this defense, the goal is a national title. Like, I'm sorry. Like, yeah, say what you will about this defense and the odds that we actually win a national title, but you have to try to put yourself in the best position possible. And Georgia Tech cannot stop the run game. Every time we touched the ball, it was 5 yards minimum, with a few exceptions. It was 5 yards every time we touched the ball, at least.
Yeah, so on paper, I'm looking at the stats right now. This is ridiculous. So total yards, Miami 436, Georgia Tech 370. Passing yards, Miami 348, Georgia Tech 88. Rushing yards, Miami 88, Georgia Tech 282. Yards per play, Miami 6.9, Georgia Tech 5.8. First downs, Miami 24, Georgia Tech 18. But here we go. Time of possession, Georgia Tech 34-49, Miami 25-11. And both of us only had 3 penalties. We turned the ball over 1 time. We only punted twice. They punted 5 times. I mean, on paper, it looks like a game that we would have won, but
Yeah. Well, and I mean, there's a silver lining that I've been harping on all year, was the excessive amount of penalties we've gotten. And they were actually pretty good on that today. So there's a silver lining.
Well, I did like that one hit though, where we got, wow, what's his name? I'm trying to think, where he got thrown out of the game.
Ahmad Moten.
Yeah. That was a wicked hit right there. I did
that. Well, listen, that was also a great acting job, because that helmet, if he had just fallen over, his helmet would have come off anyway. Because Ruben Bain had a hold, which I love too, that ESPN showed the replay of Ruben Bain's face mask, but didn't bother to mention the hold that partially led to it. So that was great.
Yeah. I just liked the hit. It was a good hit. I liked it.
Yeah, and listen, I've made it clear I'm not a fan of the targeting rules whatsoever. But there wasn't a launch. Like I've seen a lot of that. I mean, dude had a 5-step running head start. And I think it's perfectly fine to hit somebody in the chest, which is what he did. But apparently not.